Welcome to Sold with Webinars, a podcast that aims to uncover how the most successful experts, coaches, consultants, and e-course professionals sell their products and services with just one sales presentation or webinar. A simple sales webinar can transform the business and life of a solopreneur. And this podcast will show you how other experts just like you are generating 6 and 7 figures per year online with their webinars. So let's get started. Hey everyone, Joel Irway here, and welcome to another episode of Sold with Webinars. On today's episode, if you have been struggling with the entrepreneurial roller coaster and you want to know how to get off it, then this episode is specifically for you. I just got off the phone with my good friend, Jason Wardrop, who's been a client of mine for over a year, and we went through some ups and downs. And my mission with recording this podcast was to show you the true behind the scenes focus of what really happens with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So in this interview, we go through over a year's worth of marketing angles and marketing funnels with webinars, and Jason explains how he overcame a lot of different obstacles. He went through a lot of different highs and a lot of different lows. And so we dove deep into this episode, and I'm really excited to release this to you because it shows you what really happens with our business. So without further ado, let's jump right into today's episode. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So let's start out with a quick bio, quick introduction on who is Jason Wardrop, the man, the myth, the legend. So give my audience a quick rundown.
Yeah, so I've been in the entrepreneurship space, online marketing for probably 6-7 years or so. Kind of started in the SEO days and kind of just evolved the whole business since then. And most recently have a software. It's called Arsenal MKG, and it is a social lead generation platform. So basically, if you can imagine, it's like a Hootsuite, lead pages, MailChimp, all combined in one. And so we work with small business owners, specifically right now, real estate and real estate agents, helping them generate leads for their business.
Very cool, man. So about a year ago, when we started working together, this wasn't initially, so your offer was the same, but tell my audience where we started from back a year ago, if you remember. If you don't remember, I'll refresh you, but yeah.
Well, cool. So, I mean, to kind of take you back even a little bit more than that, probably about a year and a half ago, we had the software, and initially I was like, I want to do enterprise sales, go sell to one company and get thousands of users on. The tough thing about that is I realized the sales cycle, could be 6 to 8 months. And at that point, you don't even know if you're getting a sale or not. So it was just very difficult knowing how to pay the bills and all that stuff. So that's when I kind of explored and found the whole webinar concept, where you can have like this weekly repeatable sales cycle where, people are either going to buy that weekend or they're not. And so it's just more like of that repetitive nature. And then at that time, we were marketing to, and maybe this is kind of what you remember, but we were marketing to multi-level marketing. So network marketers. And so we had this software, which honestly works great for them. It wasn't probably the best market to hit up. And so after a lot of struggle, I mean, I ran webinars for weeks with no results, no real success. And then anyway, I was like, well, maybe let's try out the real estate market and try it. In essence, it was honestly the same exact webinar. All I did was 1 week, and I was like, I'm going to run some ads. I think I had like maybe 100 people register, and did the same exact webinar. I just tweaked some of the examples to be like more real estate specific instead of network marketing. And I remember that first week I had 2 sales, and it was a total game changer. From there, I was like, you know what? Real estate is the market I'm going to go tackle, make happen, and make this really happen. So
when you were first, now I'm going completely from memory, so tell me if this is wrong or not. When you first came to me and we were working, I saw your network marketing presentation. How much was your offer at that point?
Oh yeah. So originally my offer was $300 for the year for on the webinar. And then I bumped it up to like $497 because I kind of like the 300 was kind of something I created. And then I realized once I studied the webinars a little bit more, I was like, hey, everyone's kind of in the $497, $997. So I was like, well, they're kind of a little bit on the cheaper side. So I'll just stick with $497 with my webinar offer.
And with the network marketing industry, you're having a heck of a time converting 497, right?
Exactly. Yep.
One of the interesting things that I love hearing about with these stories is like finding out where the money is, right? We've all heard the term, don't sell to broke people. And I sold to broke people my first webinar. I was selling a career development course, and it was painful because like you're so passionate about it. You know that market, like I knew that market like the back of my hand, and I knew I could help these people, but I was attracting unemployed engineers. And it was like that was the first major shift that I had was like, okay, I can't sell to broke people. So I can take the exact same offer and sell it to a different audience and charge more money for it. And it's almost like that's exactly what we did here.
Yep.
Network marketing, the multi-level marketing people are, first-time entrepreneurs, or it's, stay-at-home moms. I mean, it's a different breed, and it's a broke.
Well, it's not much of a commitment level to get into it. It's like you pay the startup fee, whereas like real estate, you've got to go to pass the exams. It's a little bit more of a commitment once you're an actual agent. And anyway, getting to that whole point is we bumped the offer from $497 up to $997. That first week, I was like, hey, let's just give it a try. Nothing's working network marketing. I've got nothing to lose. Went and made 2 sales that very first week at doubling the price point, and I was actually making money now.
Yeah, it's amazing. You find the right market, you find the money, and the rest starts to flow. So you have that first webinar, you switch to real estate, double the price, you start making sales. What does it feel like? Is it like, just give us some background, like what?
Yeah, man. So obviously that first week actually making sales, I had maybe made 1 or 2 sprinkled throughout like the 6 months or so that I was doing network marketing. But I mean, that especially when you're investing money in ads, it's like nothing. You're still in the hole big time. And so basically, I got to a point where like I knew my numbers to a T. Like I was like, okay, I've got 100 people on, or I don't remember the numbers. It was probably like 200, and I'm going to get a 29% show up rate. I'm going to have a 8 or 9% close rate. So like before the webinar even started, I could guess to a T how many sales I was going to make. And it was super exciting because like just having that consistency in my business. And then obviously I was building my email list, and anyway, just seeing that grow. And then it got to a point where it was like, okay, I was hitting that mark where I was hitting like 4 sales every single week, which, from where I came from, that was awesome. I was like, okay, I'm sick and tired of just hitting 4 sales and just doing the same thing over and over again. And so really, and I feel like this whole process of the webinars and spending more money on advertising, all that stuff, it's really a lot of like minor mental shifts and just tweaks of just your way of thinking. And so one of the big mental shifts, I remember I was talking to a coach, a friend of both of ours, Mandy, and she was like, well, is it because like, are you not selling more because, you don't feel like you can fulfill like more than 4 people? And I was like, that's probably it, because it was just me kind of at the time. And so I didn't really have anyone to really help. And I was like, I don't know if I can really do more than that. And so once I would kind of like put those fears aside, I was able to scale it up to, 6, 7, 8. And then I think I even hit like 10 or 11 sales in 1 week, which was awesome. So that was like more than I'd ever done previously with any other part of my business.
So we're going from, sprinkling a couple sales with the network marketing industry at $497 or $300, whatever it is. Now we're doing 10, 11 sales every time you run the webinar. So, that's like $10,000 every time that you run the webinar. So you're having these really successful weeks. And I remember the turning point kind of hit towards the beginning of this year. So we're in, August of 2017.
Yep.
I remember working with you like the end of 2016. You had some really big months. I think like right before New Year's, like you probably had your biggest day ever. And it was probably, part of it was people are also trying to spend money to write off their business, but hey, take it where you can get it, right? But then
exactly.
The new year hit and things started to go, this is now the journey of the roller coaster, right? So what happened after the start of the new year?
Well, it was funny because like you're saying, so that last webinar of 2016, I mailed my list. And so it was biggest webinar ever. I was like, man, this is killing it. Everyone in January is going to be like all ready to buy because they're setting new goals, just ready to pumped up. And in January, like I think that first webinar, it was like total crickets. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what's going on? And so January, honestly, I think I had like a down. So like basically September, October, November, December, like I was almost doubling revenue every single month. And then January hit and I actually went backwards. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on? And then I remember talking to, I had a decent size list at this time because I've been doing it for months now. And
What's a decent size? Can you give an estimate?
So at that time it was probably around 8 or 9,000.
Okay.
Probably, so it was growing, but anyway, so then I kind of like stumbled upon, somebody's like, hey, why don't you like offer some low ticket thing? And so like I started offering a $37 product, a one-time offer. And that in February, like it shot me up like, I think it was like $12,000 increase from my biggest month ever to then, jumping up big time in February. And then in March, I jumped up, I think, I don't know, maybe even 20,000 more than that because I was just like going through just building, a bigger community. And for some reason in March, I don't know, it was just a great sales month for me. But then very quickly right after March, and I think it was like the first couple of weeks of March, and then like the last 2 or 3 weeks of March, and then going into April, it was just like 1 week I'd have like my consistent sales of like, the 6 or 8 or whatever it was. And then 1 week I'd have like 1 or 2, and it'd be like the same amount, like same exact ads, same webinar, same everything. But it just like the fluctuation was just ridiculous. So it got to a point where in April, I was just like, at the end of April, it's like, I've got to rethink some of this stuff because, it's not really the consistent sales like I was getting before, which, I mean, it could have been a number of factors, but it's kind of where I hit a point where I was like, oh crap, what's going on now?
So the beginning part of 2017, you introduced this $37 mini course. You're coming off some of your best months ever, end of 2016, and we start planning, okay, how can we make this even better? And I remember looking at your numbers and we kept thinking, okay, we have a lot of non-buyers, right? So how can we increase the show up rate and how can we get more qualified people to show up to the webinar? So what you did was you created a $37 mini course, which you offered to everybody on, like they would register for the webinar and then immediately be offered this $37 course. So we could hopefully help liquidate ad spend and increase your profitability. So there was twofold while we're increasing the quality of people to show up. And that worked for a while. And you said the sales grew. And then all of a sudden, come end of March, it just fell off.
Working for some random reason. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. So our assumption was to help qualify more people. And it did for a while. And then end of March, it started to tank. April, it tanked. Right. And then even in May, it was, I mean, you went through some pretty rough months.
Yeah. So May, I completely was just like, I am not doing any webinars. I'm not spending any money. I just need to revamp my whole offering. I need to figure something else out. And so, that's kind of like May is when I turned everything off. And basically May and June, I was just like, well, May, I turned everything off, wanted to rewrite the webinar. And then June, I kind of like, I launched my webinar because I was thinking that it was going to like kill it. And then I realized my messaging was totally off. And I had to rewrite. I think I rewrote it like probably 3 times before I got it back working again. Mm-hmm. Which, it's not that easy to write a full webinar.
No, it's not.
But
it takes time and effort for sure. So at this point now, so May, you kind of like, you took a break.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So May really took a break, which I don't blame you because it's like you can only get kicked in the groin so many times with, you're spending money on ads, right? Yep. So money's coming out of pocket. You're not getting the results. It's the same webinar and you just can't, you're pulling your hair out. How were your $37 courses going, your mini courses?
So it was weird because when I first launched it in like February and March, even to like cold traffic, when somebody would register for the webinar, they'd see that on the thanks page. And like, I was almost getting, if I spent $1,000 a day, I was making almost like $700 on recuperating that ad cost. And then for some reason, not only the webinar, but even the one-time offer totally started tanking. And, I'd see like maybe 1 or 2 sales a day on that, which, is nice to get a little bit of money coming in, but it was nowhere near what I was seeing before in the earlier months when I first started introducing it, which I thought was kind of crazy.
Yeah. So, I remember talking to you about like what could possibly be going on, like what's happening. We tried a bunch of different things. We tried some minor tweaks to the webinar. I know you were trying some things with Facebook as well, but eventually we were just like both scratching our heads. And it's like, the webinar we knew worked because you were making sales for 6 months or so. Yeah. So eventually you took May off, which was cool. And we hopped back on maybe end of June. I can't remember when we had our call, and I'm like, okay, let's take our call and let's focus on dialing, like on rewriting your offer. Was it your offer that we rewrote, or did we also rewrite other parts of your webinar? So
Yeah.
like, what
So
was the core thing that we changed?
yeah. So you and I were like we worked on that offer. That was probably about, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago. But another thing, like I think there's two things that were like the biggest game changers to actually make this happen and make this work. One is my webinar, and even the first webinar that worked for a long time. I was speaking to somebody that was, I'm selling to real estate agents. I was almost speaking to the tech savvy real estate agent. And I was speaking to someone who kind of already understands the concept of landing pages, email marketing, all that stuff. And then I had a friend tell me, like, you need to talk to the little old lady real estate agent, like the person that like has no idea what's going on, because that is 95 to 99% of the market of real estate agents. And so I was like, okay, well, that totally makes sense. So like I went through, and like it's funny because I tell my wife, I'm like, yeah, I dumbed it down. She's like, well, it's not dumbing it down. She's like, I wouldn't have understood anything that you were talking about either, because she's like, I'm not dumb. But anyway, so it's like just simplifying it in terms that like anyone can understand it, making it where back in the day it was like third grade proof, make it so easy that a third grader can understand. Now it's like 60 or 70 proof, so like the 60 or 70-year-old can actually understand it. So like someone that's didn't grow up with social media, didn't grow up with the internet and all that stuff, they can like, okay, like I can grasp that idea. So like that was one big thing. And then the second one was really like it, and it kind of goes along the lines of the simplicity, was recreating the offer in a sense of like, a lot of agents, they're not technically savvy. And so one of their biggest, beliefs, like the little, like, hindering beliefs that like we have to overcome is like, hey, you can do this. And hey, we're here to help you do this. And so, like originally back with my webinar, we had said like, okay, as a bonus for the first 20, we'll help you get your first lead generation campaign set up, which, I thought was sexy. I thought that was cool. But then, you and I were talking, and it's like, well, that's not that sexy. Cause like, what does one lead generation campaign actually mean? Like, it's kind of like when Apple came out with the iPod, and they're like 1,000 songs in your pocket instead of like 8 gigabytes of music. Like nobody knows what that means. And so I changed that. It's like, it was the same offering, but instead of saying, hey, we'll set one lead generation campaign, we'll get you to 30 leads per month consistently. And that like just resonated. That spoke perfectly to a brand new agent, a savvy agent, whoever it was. And I think those two things, the simplicity and then like changing things. And we even did that with the software, where like I was saying, with the software, you'll be able to create like 40 landing pages and do like have 20,000 contacts, do emails, which is more of like speaking to an email marketer or an internet marketer. Mm-hmm. Where then I changed it to like, and I even updated again this week, because I was like, well, let's, instead of like saying 15 buyer lead campaigns, but like you can generate unlimited buyer leads, like something that's going to speak directly to them, that they're going to know, and is basically going to be that no-brainer offer that they're going to want to take up.
You nailed it when we were on the call and we were going through, and it was like, I remember hearing the transformation come through you, like as you were repeating it back, you're like, okay, one of the things that you said earlier, which is so critical for those of you who are listening right now, is simplification. Now, this is like the curse of the expert. It's like, Jason's an expert. You've got a course. If you're listening right now, you've got a course or training or a software. It's like, but you're an expert in your space. As you're trying to sell your own products and services or courses, we have this curse of the expert that I see all the time with the webinar campaign. Now, and I'll be completely honest, this baffled me for a while, because your webinar was crushing it. You're like, your numbers. I remember telling you back in like October or November, I'm like, you're going to be at 100K a month, like really, really quickly, because your close rate was so good. And we'll talk about your funnel a little bit later, because there's also some really funny things about your funnel that didn't work, but you were still crushing it. But before I jump to that, the curse of the expert is all about like, our instinct is to talk at a really, really high level because we're so ingrained with it, right? Yep. And when you changed it and you were speaking, like I remember your headline was, it literally now had in your headline, like the beginning real estate. It was something about real estate for beginners. And
Real estate agent newbie. Yeah, exactly.
Real estate agent newbie. And it was like, who am I talking to? I'm talking to real estate agent newbies, right? What do I want for them? I want them to become 6-figure agents.
Yep.
So it's almost like, who am I talking to and what do I want you to become?
Yep,
So
exactly.
the desire is clear, the interest is there, and you're getting those real estate agents who are probably newer to marketing, and you're dumbing it down. And it's like, as soon as I saw that, when we finished up on that call, I saw it. I'm like, this is going to freaking crush. Like he's going to crush it with this new message. So we finished reworking your new webinar end of June or whatever it was.
Yep.
Talk about what happened the first time that you ran it. You didn't run paid traffic. You sent it to your list, right?
Yeah. So this was probably the third time rewriting, sending to my list. And I was like, am I going to like be hounding my list too much? But I was like, well, if it's a brand new training, which it is, I was like, hopefully it's like just more of a value add than anything. So, once again, did the email, brand new training, and launched it out. And even in the emails from the beginning, this was completely different from the time before. I was like, everything was speaking to that brand new real estate agent. And I remember writing every single one of the 3 secrets. The very top of my page, I just had it like on basically like, as you're scrolling, you keep it at the top where it's like, okay, little old lady real estate agent. And then I would list out all of her obstacles or like what she needed, what we needed to overcome. And so we did that with the emails. And I think I saw the highest amount of people actually register from my email list. Obviously it was, I don't know, I hadn't run too many more ads. So it was about the same size as the email list, but I think there was like 200 and almost 300 people. It was like 291 registrants. And anyway, went through, ran that first webinar. And at the end of it, I don't know, this is kind of something funny with me, but like every single time I write a webinar, I'm like, man, this is like the best thing I've ever written. Like, this is going to kill it. And then like when it doesn't kill it, I'm just like, what? Like, what's going on? Like, this was amazing. I thought this was like so good, so awesome. And so this time, like I went and did it. And anyway, so basically 300 registrants. Right after the call, I had 6 sales, which I think this is something you were alluding to. My whole first like 6 to 8 months with the webinar that was killing it, all of my sales only ever came from the live webinar. I never had any follow-up sales ever. I don't know why. I just could not get the follow-up ever to work. And so I saw those 6 sales and I was like, really? Like, and of the 300 people, I think I almost had a 50% show up rate. So I think I had like 140, 150 people show up. And so I was like, it's only like a 5% close rate. I was like, crap, that's like not that great. And so, I mean, obviously, like I can't complain because it was like 6 sales when I was like struggling big time, hadn't really done like the other 2 webinars I had done that had totally flopped. They were like 1 or 2 sales a piece. So this one had 6. And then it was funny. I know we were voxing back and forth a little bit. And I was like, dude, another 2 came in. Another one came in. Another one came in. And then like within the next 24 hours, I had another 5 come in. And anyway, so I ended up that first week for my 291 registrants, I had 11 sales, which, I had never seen follow-up sales, let alone basically double the amount of sales. So I was like just so pumped about that and what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a huge, so awesome, right? Launch a brand new webinar, new message crushes it. You're speaking to a much bigger audience now. Like whenever you look at the market size, the beginners of any sort of market is always going to be your biggest pool. And it's usually your most attractive pool too.
Yep.
Like what you were doing before, you're speaking to more of the tech savvy, and you probably burned through that audience. You're doing it for like 6 to 8 months and you're spending quite a bit in ad spend. So our assumption is now looking back on all the data was that we just kind of burned through all those, seasoned pros, right?
Definitely.
Now you speak to the beginners, the bigger market. You say, okay, here's the potential. This is how we build 6-figure real estate agents. You're speaking to their desires. You dumb everything down. So you're explaining to them what a landing page is and how to market for cheap and how to get X number of leads per month. And it's like, you can tell it's something that they're resonating with.
Yep.
We were also stumped on your follow-up sequence because even though you're making 20, 30 grand a month when you were crushing it, in your heyday, or I don't even know how much you're making per month, but it was you were doing pretty well. You weren't getting anything on your follow-up sales. And I remember we went through a couple iterations with your emails and testing some different scarcity tactics. But talk about now, because this is a huge shift for your business. Like as you start to scale up, you're now doubling your conversion rates from the follow-up. So talk about what your old follow-up sequence was that didn't work. And honestly,
sure.
I can't figure out why it didn't work. I've never seen this happen in any other market. So we uncovered a couple of really interesting obstacles on this. So talk about that old one and now what new one is crushing it for you.
Yeah, for sure. So it was crazy because I was doing it for 6 to 8 months. So I tried, 5+ different follow-up sequences and each one of them for, 4 to 6 weeks or so, just to see okay, was it just this week or should I change it up a little bit? And so I was kind of doing the typical internet marketer style where it's okay, Thursday you have the webinar and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're kind of sprinkling emails and doing a close and the hard close on Sunday. And then some agent reached out to me after this was a couple months. And I tried probably 2 or 3 sequences like that. And he's like, hey, look, man, a lot of agents are real estate agents. They're doing open houses and showing homes on Saturday and Sunday. That's some of their biggest time. So you should probably close it down on a Monday. And I was like, that's a good thought. So I went and tried that. Once again, crickets, nothing happened. And then you and I know talked about, I was like, well, maybe I'll just try to do another live webinar in the evening or something like that. Cause I do mine in the morning. So maybe hit a different market. Tried that, nothing really, and then I would try different encore type, just so many different things. And so just was not working. And then what I'm doing that's working really well is I go through and Thursday mornings is when I have my webinar. That's the best time I found that works for agents. And then anyone who attended but did not buy, I'm sending them. So I send them an email first thing Thursday afternoon and saying, hey, you can check out the replay, but it's closing down tonight. So instead of closing it down on Sunday, it's close it down tonight. And I've seen the last 2 weeks I've been doing this, I've seen a 45, 46% open rate on that email. And then I'll have another one that's maybe 4 hours before it closes down at midnight. And, saying, hey, replay's closing down. Make sure you jump in and check it out. And so those are the only two emails going out to the attendees. And just the open rates on both of them, the click-through rates, all that stuff is just through the roof because it's okay, they want to catch it. They want to see it instead of dragging it out over the whole weekend. Cause we all know people only take action when something's closing down. So it's instead of dragging out till Sunday and just annoying with them emails every single day, just do it once and boom, you got it. And then everyone who did not attend, I would say, hey, we're I saw you didn't make it, but we're doing an encore training and it's starting soon. And so in the email, I'd be sending them to an auto webinar that started at the top of every single hour. And so, anytime they clicked on it, it really was starting soon. Mm-hmm. And so then what I was doing is, just sending one that afternoon to all the people that missed. And then the next day, the next kind of afternoon-ish, anyone who didn't open, I would basically just blast out again. Okay, saw change up the subject line to maybe try to get some more people opening it up and clicking in. But that's all I did. Just 2 emails to the attendees, 2 emails to the non-attendees. And then other than that, just putting them back into just my big email list to hopefully give them some value that's maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 4 months down the road. Maybe they'll buy something from me. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's the idea.
So what's brilliant about that and what I haven't yet seen, so this is something completely different than I've seen with any other webinar, right? But
yeah,
now that we see that it works, it's almost there's a lot of things that I can understand why it works so well. Yep. So number one, let's kind of break this down real quick. So your old sequence, just to recap, was live webinar on Thursday, and then you do a 4-day follow-up sequence afterwards to try and get people to watch the replay and ultimately buy. If you're new to webinars, this is a very standard follow-up sequence for live webinars. It did not work for the real estate market for whatever reason. Still don't know why it doesn't work, but it didn't work for a year.
Exactly.
So Jason finally changes it up, and this was not, I'm going to give him 100% credit to this. This was not on my recommendation. I wasn't against it, but I didn't come up with this. So this was Jason's idea. And so he's like, you know what? It's going to be a 24-hour webinar, essentially. Okay, you're raising your hand. You're saying you want a free training, right? So you can show up live. And if you don't show up live, I'm going to give you the replay that same day, and I'll close it down later that day, and then you're done, right? So from a psychology standpoint, it makes a lot of sense because this is all cold traffic. So this is all people who have never heard of you before. The only thing they know is that you're hosting a training for real estate agents for marketing. Mm-hmm. So why pester them when they don't know who you are for 4 days afterwards on some replay? Like if they're not going to attend, they're not going to attend. And so there's a lot of interesting things that happen with this. And I think it's brilliant. And it tipped the tables for you 100%, because now you're not pestering them after that day. They're expecting your emails that day because they raised their hand and said, I want to attend a webinar this day. And then life gets in the way. They don't attend it, whatever. Just brilliant. Doubles your sales rate.
The interesting thing is too, like, and this is where like, and I don't know, I know it's what everyone says, every internet marketer says, but they're like, you do the 1 email Thursday, announcing the replay, 2 emails Friday, 3 emails Saturday, and then like 4 emails on Sunday. I'm like, holy cow, that's like overkill.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, the more you email, the more money you make, which is true. And I've seen that with other offers, and I totally agree on that. But at the same time, like you're saying, like these are brand, like they have never heard your name. And all of a sudden this random Jason Wardrop guys emailed me 4 times in one day. Like who the heck is like, take me off your list? Or if they don't take you off your list, like I'm never opening your email again. Like I'm just deleting all that crap as soon as it comes in. And so honestly, it was kind of a little bit of brainstorming too with my wife. And she was like, you email way, like, cause I would put her on the list sometimes too. And she's like, I just got another email from you. Like, just like joking. I was like, yeah, well, I was like, that's what all the pros, all the experts, that's what they tell me to do. And she's like, well, I don't know. That's like, seems like quite a bit. So anyway.
It's awesome, man. I mean, you know what? I give you a ton of credit because, you went through some rough months, but you kept doing it. Like you kept doing the weekly live webinar. And now, what we didn't even talk about on our call today, which is completely cool, is like we tried other funnels too, to help warm them up, like lead magnet funnels, which I still want you to do. Like we talked about this before. You've got a lead magnet that you can get for dirt cheap.
Yep.
We'll work on that down the road, but you tried some other lead gen, 5-day funnels and that just didn't seem to work. But now it's all about automation. And so we're testing some different automated webinars with the same sequence that you came up with for the live webinar. And I think I really do think that's going to crush, especially now with your follow-up sequence, because it's the same exact thing. So I'm really excited about that. But for everyone who's listening right now, like I try to explain that, like, there's no, like as a creative writer, as I'm writing all these different webinars, like I try not to pigeonhole myself into a specific formula. Like we just created a webinar the other day for a client with our new launch day calls, our launch nuclear calls, where we're writing a webinar in a day, which is a pretty insurmountable task, but we've gotten pretty good at it with the team. But like we go through it and my team's like, well, what's the template? And I'm like, well, like I don't want you to follow a template. And it's this constant battle back and forth. And the same thing goes with, with your funnels. It's like what is working for one market doesn't necessarily work for the other market. And I still don't know why nobody bought on your follow-up sequences. Like not one over a year. I know. That's crazy to me.
Insane. And they were getting emails. We made sure of that.
Yep. Yeah, they were.
So anyway.
So man, what's next for you? Got your message dialed in and out to the mass markets. Like where are we going next?
Yeah. So what I'm like really trying to put in place right now is, okay, this is working really well for real estate. And our software originally, where I was trying to pitch it to all small business owners. That was another reason why I was failing way back in the past, is just because like my message is way too generic. Whereas when I homed in on real estate, it like really meshed well. And so this past week, I don't even think I've told you this, but I probably had over 20 insurance agents, because in my ad, I didn't even really pay attention, but I just put agents and brokers. And so I didn't even think about it, but then I probably had over 20 insurance agents reach out to me and be like, hey, do you have something for insurance too? Or is this just real estate? And I'm just like, okay, well, now I kind of have that webinar template that like, honestly, the messaging would work for any industry. So I'm like, well, now I'm thinking of launching the software into the insurance market. And then another market that I've always been very interested in is fitness. And so I'm like kind of just like piecing these things together where it's like, okay, this model and just really simplifying the messaging and all that stuff's working for real estate. Same thing can work for insurance, for fitness, for lenders, for a number of these different industries. And so that's where I'm really like kind of trying to strategize and brainstorm of like how I can go through, get the right team in place to take it to multiple markets and help more than just the real estate agent industry right now.
Awesome, dude. Oh, that's so key. How amazing. So if we have this conversation, in a couple of weeks and all of a sudden you launch this insurance agent webinar and that one crushes it. Like you stumble upon this because of an ad that just
I know,
attracting
right?
both sides, right? So what you're saying is now you're like in your new webinar, you're actually attracting multiple markets, and your close rate went right back up to basically where we were when we were crushing it before. And you know that your message can be dialed in more because you're getting mixed leads now. You're not even getting just real estate leads. So
Exactly.
oh, that's awesome.
So pretty cool stuff. I don't know. I'm pretty excited. And it was cool. Obviously we talked about the warm market webinar, emailing out to my list. But then, the next week did it to a cold audience, 100% paid traffic. Nobody knew who I was. And still we saw great conversion rates, even saw more sales than the week before. Similar type of thing where, the follow-up process, it still worked. I still got about half of the sales live, and then another half came in and trickled in throughout the next 24, 48 hours. And anyway, it's just kind of cool to see that, and just got to hustle and sprint while it's all still working good, because we know that winters can always come to any business.
That's right. What's your ROI now on your ad spend with this new cold traffic webinar?
So I think it's like a 3x.
Good.
So yeah.
And you haven't even put any upsells in place yet, which is another.
Haven't put upsells in place, and that's week one. So that's not counting if they get on the software monthly continuity.
Are you still doing the $37 one-time offer?
No. So I'm inviting them to join a Facebook group. So I built up in the last week, I probably added another 600-700 people in there, and coming on 2,000 real estate agents in that Facebook group. And anyway, kind of going that model, because anyway, I just kind of want to build a little bit more of a community before hitting them with that. And then I've probably got 4 or 5 different $37 to $47 products that once a month or so I'll kind of sprinkle in there to the list, and
nice,
be a nice little spike in revenue that's not related to ads, which is great. So
awesome, man. This was an awesome interview, and hopefully it was inspirational for the experts out there who are launching their own course, or if they're doing webinars right now. Like, this stuff happens, and the one thing that I want you guys all to take away is analyzing what market you're really speaking to. Because on the flip, like if you're speaking to the moderately educated tier of your market, like that's going to burn out much quicker than going to the mass market or the beginner market. That beginner market, there's always leads coming in. Like that's always going to be filled. And if you think about it just like a funnel, right? It's like the most educated, moderately educated, and the uneducated. And if you can speak to the uneducated, you're going to talk to all of them. And that's where most people get tripped up, is they think that they have to talk to the most educated, but even though that's the smallest market, and they think that they're going to exclude all the rest, but that's just not what happens. So Jason, where can people check you out? Where can they find your website? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So our website is arsenalmkg.com. I know Arsenal's kind of hard to spell, and then it's M as in marketing, kg.com. And then if you guys want to check out my webinar funnel, it's yoursocialsystem.com. And then the automated one is /system, I believe. So anyway, if you guys want to go check that out, hack it, see what's going on there, I guess you go check that out. But yeah, so that's kind of where you can connect, or also on Facebook. And if you reach out, happy to help answer any questions or help out in any way.
Awesome, dude. Appreciate your time. I'm really excited about the progress that this journey, this entrepreneurial roller coaster, this webinar roller coaster that you've been on. And I just give you so much credit, because a lot of people would have jumped off and they would have been like, screw it, it doesn't work. But you got a taste early, which is good.
Yep.
Then you had to pivot, and you pivoted multiple times. So I'm really excited for it, and really excited to see where you're going next. So awesome. Well, that's all we got for today. So we're going to wrap up. Jason, thanks again, man. And we'll be talking to all of you guys soon. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to giving you the next one. You can also follow and watch the behind-the-scenes look at how I'm personally launching a brand new 6- and 7-figure product from scratch at soldwithwebinars.com/TV. And if you'd like to come hang out with other fellow experts, join our Facebook group at soldwithwebinars.com/experts. Join us next time, and I'll see you there.